Well, hello again. You are at the Speakers Bureau, and this is Donna Mills. I'm Dr. Mills, St. Lucie County School Board member. And as always, the Speakers Bureau is about encouraging, inspiring, motivating our students and our community to be the best that they can be, and to be able to relate with the life stories of others who have already been through so many different things in life and were able to press through and get to the other side and become successful and productive in life. So we want to encourage our community, because I know that there are some that are watching now that you may be going through your challenges and you may be ready to give up. You don't have to give up. And so we come and we share our experiences so that you can be encouraged to push forward and be the productive person you want to be in life. So today we have with us a young lady, Chanita Neil, and she's our guest for today. She was raised in Southwest Florida, but she currently lives here in St. Lucie County. Chanita, how long have you lived in this county?
I've been here for just about 7 years now.
Okay,
yes,
okay.
Yes.
7 years, it seems like I've known you much longer. So I want you to just share with us, you gave me a bio, but I think you're going to talk about all of this in your story.
Yes.
And so we just want to ask you to tell us about yourself starting out. Mm-hmm. Are you married? Are you single? You know, what is your background?
Sure. So I am currently single. I am divorced actually now for about 8 years. Mm-hmm. As you said, I come from Southwest Florida originally. I was born and raised there, so I'm a true Floridian. Mm-hmm. I was born actually into a family, a huge family. There were a total of 8 children, okay. And my biological mom and dad.
And where do you fit in?
I'm the baby, actually.
I'm
the baby girl, yeah. So I am actually the youngest. Mm-hmm. I'm the youngest girl, and we had an interesting life, actually. Mm-hmm. My life specifically was very, very challenging. Mm-hmm. I went through a lot of different types of abuse in my home. I suffered a lot of physical abuse at the hands of my mom. Mm. And then, you know, later in life, understanding that she went through a lot too when she was younger. So I think it kind of fits into that narrative that hurt people hurt people. Mm-hmm. And that's where I fell into the entire picture. So for me, I dealt with a lot of abuse as a child.
And you know there's a lot of people that can relate with that.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. And unfortunately, it's not talked about enough. Mm-hmm. So a lot of people are suffering in silence. Mm-hmm. And it's so important for us to be able to actually release ourselves, to be okay with talking about it, right? Yes. To understand that it's not our fault. Mm-hmm. And it's okay to actually reach out and help someone else. Yes. And that's kind of what I've kind of taken on as my own mentality. Mm-hmm. It's not a secret for me anymore. I'm not hiding behind scars. Mm-hmm. I'm not wearing long sleeves and long pants because I'm hiding anymore,
right? In fact,
it
helps to heal.
Absolutely.
Even as we give out to others and speak it out.
Yes.
We help others, but Absolutely. It also helps to heal. Right. Now, I noticed that your degree is in psychology,
yes,
and that's where mine is as well. So we're kind of kindred spirits here.
Exactly.
And we understand the importance of really opening up and talking about things that might have been very challenging in our own lives. Mm-hmm. Give us a little bit more about your educational background, and we will talk a little more about your life as well later.
Absolutely. So educationally, I completed high school when I was 16, mm-hmm. and I left high school and ended up going into the military at 17. So I was very young in the military. And once I came out of the military, I did a total of about 9 years in the military. Mm-hmm. And I decided that I really, really wanted to pursue this dream of mine to be a counselor. I've always wanted to be a counselor. Mm-hmm. So I did I graduated from Florida Gulf Coast University with my bachelor's in psychology. Mm-hmm. And then I was actually 7 months pregnant when I graduated with my son. I got married, and so I graduated with my bachelor's degree. And then I decided to go back to get my master's in professional counseling. Mm-hmm. So I did receive my master's in professional counseling. And I'm actually currently working on a second master's in mental health, wellness, and prevention. Absolutely. So
Wow.
I'm an educator. I just love
You're an
education.
educator,
I
yeah.
just love it. Yeah. So I'm constantly pursuing that.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so tell us a little bit about what you do in St. Lucie County for and in our community.
Okay, absolutely. So I currently work at Longwood Regional Trauma Center, and I am an injury prevention educator with Longwood. And basically, those are a whole lot of words that says that I go out and make sure that people understand how not to end up in our trauma center. Okay. So I go out and I educate the community on different things that are happening, like for instance, distracted driving. As we know, a lot of people are kind of caught up in their cell phones while they're driving, and that's landing people in our trauma center. We have a lot of children that are being bullied today, and these situations of bullying are leading to suicidal attempts. So because of that, we have programs, anti-bullying programs as well, to teach the students what that really looks like, what that really feels like, and then who to go to get help for that. So we have programs with that. We also have a huge campaign with Stop the Bleed right now. Stop the Bleed is...
Now, when you say we, I don't know if you mentioned who we... I don't know if you did or not, but would you tell the audience who do you work with?
Yes, Longwood Regional Medical Center, right? And I specifically work with the trauma department. Okay. So our trauma team sponsors all of the events that we do. They support me in all of my efforts in the community to ensure that the education that's needed is presented in the community and is available to everyone in the community.
You mentioned something that I'm very familiar with, the Stop the Bleed effort. Yes. We just passed the referendum. I'm sure you know about the voting and the taxes. And part of that is so that there is safety in our schools.
Absolutely.
But before that, I guess now it's been, a year that Longwood, through yourself, have come in and have trained over 300 of our employees in the Stop the Bleed program. Yes. Tell us more about the Stop the Bleed, what that's all about.
Absolutely. So this is one of my favorite programs, and it's one of my favorite programs because it's a program that actually reaches every single person, no matter the age, no matter your geographical location. It reaches everyone because Stop the Bleed basically says we're going to teach every person, regardless of your background, regardless of your knowledge, we're going to teach every person how to save a life from life-threatening bleeding. We reach into every aspect of our community, and with that, we partnered, of course, with you and with St. Lucie County Schools, which was absolutely wonderful, a wonderful partnership. And we have been able to not only train over 300 teachers, but we've also been able to provide every teacher with a trauma kit for their classroom, which is huge, right? Because it's really good to give you the training, but it's even better to give you the tools,
you have to have the tools.
Absolutely. So the teachers have been phenomenal in receiving the training. The nurses at St. Lucie County Schools as well. We've even trained some bus drivers and some janitors as well. So we're really getting the administration.
And we're not through yet, right? Are we through the training?
Absolutely not.
No. So we've had about 300, a little over 300 that have been trained, and we are still training our staff. And because we have about 5,000. On this, and that is wonderful. And more importantly, for us as a school district, we don't pay a dime for this training.
Absolutely.
I mean, you guys are completely giving all this training free of charge.
Absolutely.
And that's what it's all about.
Absolutely.
All of us here in St. Lucie County working together in our different areas and coming together in order to become a safe and secure county and for our children's sake.
Yes, and for us at Longwood, it's so important that we get the prevention word out there. And if there's a way that we can save a life, that we can keep an individual from coming to the trauma center, we're going to absolutely do everything we can to make sure that happens.
The prevention part.
The prevention, absolutely. So we're not just in St. Lucie County Schools. I just did a training for the Clerk of Courts and Stop the Bleed. We do trainings. I just did a church, as a matter of fact. We do trainings all throughout the community. And reason being, again, is to make sure that everyone is on board with knowing how to stop life-threatening bleeding.
So if someone needs to reach you, do you have a number that you can put out for us?
Absolutely.
Can you give us that number?
I sure can. That number would be 772-332-6304.
Okay.
And they can reach me directly and schedule a training, and it's absolutely free.
Okay, Chanita Neil. And again, she's going to give us that number, so you get ready to write it down. But it's part of Longwood.
Yes.
So if you remember, if you can write down Chanita Neil at Longwood, if you would like to find out if you qualify to be able to have these free trainings for your church or your organization or your business. Chanita, let's talk about something else. Now we're going to switch gears a little bit.
Sure.
Your story, your life story. You started out a little bit telling us in the beginning, and I want you to continue to share with us what were some of your challenges, your traumas as a child, and how did you come out of it? I mean, we've just heard an amazing story already as far as your profession and your education. So tell us a little bit about your childhood, but also make sure you share with us what happened.
Right.
What helped you to come out of that?
Right. So for me, growing up, my biggest challenge was not having a voice. My biggest challenge was being suppressed vocally. I didn't have anyone to talk to. I didn't have anyone to reach out to. I didn't have anyone to say, this is happening to me at home. So I struggled for years with that abuse. Eventually, the state did come in, and there was some intervention there, and I ended up in several different placements. I ended up, as a matter of fact, as a child, I ended up being brought over here to St. Lucie County, which was one of my placements as well.
So foster care, through foster care.
When I came over here, it was actually a relative placement that they put me in on this side, and then I ended up going back over to the other coast, which was, of course, through foster care, and I was in shelters, and I kind of was bounced around from place to place for quite a while. Lived a very, very difficult life as a teenager, trying to kind of get through and navigate. But what I found was a love for academics, and that gave me something to hold on to. So I found myself absolutely in love with learning. So even though my life was chaotic all around me, if I could just get to a good book, you know, it's like I could put myself in that book, and my life wasn't real anymore. I could live in that story. I could live in that book. And I found peace there for myself. When I realized that I had such a love of learning, I had such a love of academics, it allowed me to find the strength within myself to be able to move forward. And though I did not have the relationship with my biological family that I wanted to have, I was in so many different placements and living in so many different places. Even though I was going through all of those struggles, I had academics. And that was one thing that was consistent. This is why it's so important for us, especially as educators. When we have students coming to our classrooms daily, sometimes that's all they have. Is that classroom experience. And it's our responsibility to ensure that that classroom experience is actually something that's going to take them for the rest of their lives, because sometimes it's all they have. So for me, going through, I ended up in the military, and I went through that experience, and I'm really glad I did have that experience. I came out. But I think the pivotal moment for me was when I was in the military, and a woman came up to me in the military, and she asked me if I went to church. And I didn't. I was so far away from that. But my experience was going to church. And I found a love in church that I had never even known existed before. I'd never had that experience. So I actually began to fall in love with God, really, you know, and understand that whole experience for myself. It was absolutely life-changing for me. However, in that same venue, I was adopted. I ended up meeting a family.
Before we get to the adoption, which is really exciting. It is so exciting. I heard two things in your story that helped you in your path. And the first thing I heard was you fell in love with education.
Oh, yes.
And I have heard that story from someone else that went through a very traumatic lifestyle as well. So being able to fall in love
Yes.
with some things that are going to be productive for you in life is extremely
It's
important.
Key. Absolutely. It's key.
Yeah, and that's what we look for. What are the keys to success?
Right.
So far, what I've heard was she fell in love with education.
Absolutely.
And then she fell in love spiritually.
Yes.
And
yes.
those two areas really helped to pull you through.
Absolutely.
Now tell us about the adoption. We've got, and you need to write a book.
Yes.
You need to write a book because there's so many people out there that can be so inspired and encouraged by your story.
Yes.
And so we have to pay it forward and give it back. So I encourage you to write that book.
Absolutely.
But tell us about the adoption now. And this is incredible. I already know a little bit about the adoption. Wait till you hear this.
Yeah. So the adoption actually came as an adult, right? So I was already through the system, and it just so happened to be in church, right? I met this wonderful, wonderful, wonderful pastor, and actually I met his wife first, and the connection that we had initially scared me, because when you're growing up and you don't know love and you don't experience it, when you first experience it, it's a very scary situation. Because you don't trust it. You don't know how to trust it. So I didn't know how to trust that. But it was so beautiful because the initial connection was made, and who is now my adoptive mom she would come and she would see me every single day. So the bonding began, and the connection and the conversation, and one day, they came to me and they wanted to make it official. And they said, you will never, ever be in this world without parents. You'll never not belong again, ever. And for me, that was like, it just changed my whole life.
So you were an adult?
I was an adult.
What age again?
As a matter of fact, I was about 24, I want to say, about 24, when it was final. So we ended up going through all of the, had to get the attorney and went through all of the paperwork. But when we got to the last stage and it was time to sign everything, and everything was official and everything was filed with the courts, and when it got to that place, I knew that there was absolutely nothing in this world that I could not do. It gave me such courage. It gave me such just so much love and energy. I knew that I could do anything. So I went from being an abused little girl. I went from growing up in my teenage years being homeless, literally sleeping in the backs of stores. I grew up going off to the military, and then I ended up being with a family that God had set aside for me so long ago, but my timing was then. And I went from all of that to now being in a position that I make over 6 figures a year.
Wow.
I'm in a place now.
So you made some right choices, no matter how many wrong choices others made in your life as a child. You chose some correct choices.
Absolutely.
And choices are very important.
Absolutely.
So you started going to church, and that's where you met your adopted parents, making a good choice for your life.
Yes.
And it's amazing that when we make good choices, what that can do in our lives.
Absolutely.
Your love for education as well was an excellent choice. So many kids, they drag into school. They don't want to listen to the teacher. They don't want to get their education. But when you have a love for education, that's going to make room for you also.
Yes, absolutely.
And I have talked to so many people that have similar challenges, yet different.
Right.
That they had that ingredient. They had the ingredient of loving to be educated, and that's important. So if you're out there and you don't like school, change your thinking, because it all starts up here in your head, right?
Absolutely,
and begin to read books that can really take you all over the world. Really. And we're Kids That Hope, a community. And so when you talk about the teachers, how important it is for us to understand as a district and in that classroom that they may be that kid that may be the only savior
Yes.
for that kid is in the
Exactly.
classroom in that school. And so our teachers are not only teachers, but they're counselors and they're
They
parents.
are,
And
yes.
in this day and time, they wear a lot of hats, and we know it's very challenging for them.
Indeed, it is.
We are 1 point away from an A district.
Wow.
And it's because of our teachers
That's awesome.
and our educators.
Yes.
And they've
Very
put
good.
in the effort and the hard work in every child's life
Wow.
in order to make that happen.
That
Because
is
when I first
phenomenal.
came on as a board member, we were low C. Today we are
Wow.
1 point away from an A.
What awesome
so
work.
That is awesome.
Wow.
And the community at large, we're all doing it to make a
That
difference.
is phenomenal.
Being a Kids at Hope, there's a part of that Kids at Hope where you have what's called ACEs. And you had an ACE in your life that stepped into your life, and
Yes.
that was your current
Yes.
adopted parents now.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. And they when they stepped into my life, it was at such a time where I was really, really feeling like, I don't know how I'm going to do this much longer. I had been through so many different challenges, but you made a statement a minute ago that really speaks volumes to me. When you make good choices, good things happen. When you find yourself in the midst of a good decision, that's where you can really see some good things. So for me, my good decision was going to church. That was my good decision because my blessing was in that good decision. Now, had I not followed that, had I not kept in mind, even with education, had I not allowed myself to really go with feeling that and loving education, had I not, I wouldn't be where I am today. If I would have dropped out of school, or if I would have
Choices.
yeah, my choices made room for me to be where I am today. And so for me, being able to follow and in the midst of all the bad, make good choices and not blame the world for everything that happened to me, but able to find within myself something good
Yes.
and run with it.
Yes.
It allowed me to be in this position today.
And you're talking again about our Kids at Hope concept.
Yes.
Because for adults, we are to look for the treasure
Yes.
that exists in all
Yes.
children.
Yes.
That all children
I
are
love
capable
that.
of
Yes.
success. But everyone has a talent, a gift. They have
Yes.
a treasure within them. Every single
Everyone.
person. And so that concept is to look for that treasure.
Right. I love that. I
Yeah.
love that. Because, oftentimes what we do is we look at the behaviors or we look at, the frustrations or we look at the things that we don't like. But when you look at all of the chaos, you miss the treasure, right?
You
When
do.
you look at all the distractions, you
That's
miss
on
the
the
treasure.
outside,
Yes.
yeah.
You miss the treasure. And I love the way Kids at Hope, I love the way it's designed because if you can have an eye to look inside of a person and not be distracted by everything that you see on the outside, you can really find something that will change the very trajectory of their life.
yes.
That is a phenomenal thought process.
It is.
I love that. Absolutely.
And it's not it is a thought process.
Yes.
It's a belief system.
Yes, I love
the Kids
it.
at Hope philosophy.
Right,
It's
right.
not another program of what you do. It's
Right.
changing the belief system
Yes.
in the adults that
love
work
it.
with children.
That is phenomenal.
Yeah.
And that is so needed, especially with our kids of today, right? Because they have so many challenges. They have challenges I didn't have when I was younger, right? I didn't have cell phones and
That's what I was
distractions.
just thinking. I mean, just the cell phone alone is a big distraction.
Right.
Yeah.
They have so many different challenges that we didn't have. So naturally, they're going to have different distractions. But it is our responsibility to be able to look through all of that and see what's really there and pull on that.
Pull on that, yes.
Because when you pull that treasure out, the distractions begin to cease.
Yes.
And everything that's good begins to come forward. I love that. I
Yeah.
love that.
So we've said a whole lot, and this has been great
It's
talking
been
with
awesome.
you.
Thank you.
Again, you write that
Yes.
book, maybe even make a TV program out of your life story. But to encourage, we have so many children out there that are in the foster care system and just challenges in life,
Yeah.
And we just want to encourage each and every one of you to go out there, find your ace.
Yes.
Don't wait for your ace to come to you. You
Yes.
know that you have, as a child, I knew that I had something special in me.
Absolutely.
You know?
Yeah.
And you know that something is special about you. Go out there and find your ace. Find a teacher.
Yes.
The more aces you have in life, the better.
Yes,
and
absolutely.
I'm not a Kids at Hope expert, but there's like 4 aces, and one is your parents. But if you don't have that ace, you know, the more aces you have is the better.
Absolutely.
But if you don't have that ace, or if you have the parents, sometimes we have kids out there that have great parents.
Absolutely.
And they don't understand the gift that they have, the ace that they have.
Yeah.
And so many a times, especially in their teenage years, they begin to rebel.
Yeah. Yeah.
And lose out with great parents.
Yeah.
So your choices are very important. If you have great parents, take advantage of that.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, and be grateful for that. Even if it's a one parent, even if it's a grandmother, you know, that you know really cares and loves you and wants the best for you.
Absolutely.
You take advantage of that. Don't rebel against that. I know a young lady whose great grandmother raised her.
Wow.
And she went through a very rebellious time with her great grandmother.
Wow.
But she had other aces out there. She had teachers out there. She had myself as an ace. And today she's in her late 30s. And all through school, I was one of her aces. And she calls me now on a regular basis just to check in with me, you know?
Wow.
Because she had that challenge. She was rejected by mother and grandmother. And great grandmother took her.
Wow.
So there's so many people that are hearing your story and the opportunity to just understand, think outside of themselves, get some understanding of what life is all about and making those choices. And finding your aces is a good choice.
It's a very good choice.
People who care about you. That's what aces are. They care about you. And sometimes you have to find those people.
Yes, you do. Yeah, because they don't always come to you, right? So sometimes you do have to go out and you have to find them. And for me, if I'm speaking to a young lady or a young man who's going through those situations, or maybe they are in foster care, or maybe they're in a home that they don't feel safe, or regardless of the situation, I want to encourage them to know that regardless of where you find yourself, regardless of what situation you're in, you have a voice. You absolutely have a voice. And even though sometimes it gets really, really hard and you don't feel like you have a voice, you don't think anybody is hearing you, you're just talking to the wrong people. You got to go talk to someone else,
That's
right?
right. That's
you have
a
to go
choice.
find that ace. Exactly. You have to go and begin to speak to someone else, because someone will listen. You just have to find that ace. I love that. Absolutely.
Well, we're running out of time, but this has been a great interview.
It's been awesome. I've loved it.
And we certainly appreciate it. And are you willing to speak to others, to go out into the community? I mean, I don't want to put you out there.
No,
but,
I'd love to.
But
I do, yes.
you could reach Chanita Neil also again at Longwood.
Yes.
And if you would like for her to come and share her story with maybe your congregation or your business people or whoever, you know, please contact her. I know the foster care system out there would love to have you as a voice. Yes. Oh my gosh, we need you as a voice.
I love it.
Again, we thank you so much for coming to the Speakers Bureau, and we appreciate all that you do in our community. God bless you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
All right, I hope you enjoyed this part of this day at the Speakers Bureau and our most precious speaker, who now has a tremendous voice for our community. Take care, and we'll see you next time.